Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Sober Bliss Meets. Today, I'm extremely grateful and happy because I have Karl here. Karl Staib is the author of Bring Gratitude. Thank you, Karl, for joining me today. How are you?
Good. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. As I've just said, you are the author of Bring Gratitude. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about and why you decided to write the book about gratitude?
Yeah. So, you know, the most impactful thing that most people, I guess, the biggest changes that occur usually occur from challenges, and so with challenges comes choices that you have to make.
Mhm.
And my father was passing, and I was struggling with it, and I felt like I could easily go fall back into depression. He was a really good friend that would always be there to support me whenever I called him.
Yeah.
He was far from perfect, but I loved him quite a bit. And when you know that person is no longer going to be there, it's a big adjustment.
Yeah.
And so when he was passing, he hadn't died yet. I went back to my gratitude journal, and
Okay.
I had kept two gratitude journals to um, mild results, I should say. I always, at the time, I thought I got good results. I should caveat that, but I would end up slipping back in the old habits. And so
Yeah.
what I realized is if I really wanted to make my life about gratitude versus complaining that my father was gone,
Mm.
complaining that I couldn't call him anymore, worrying about, if there was a heaven that he would go to, or worrying about myself and the selfish nature of I no longer have my father,
Yeah.
and he's the one passing. So I turned to gratitude. I started just jotting down things I was grateful for my father, and I would. Then I started doing the small things, and ever since then, I've kept a daily gratitude journal that I turn to. Um, Whether I had a difficult day at work, whether I'm having health issues, I always come back to the gratitude journal, and it's helped ground me in who I am today, and that's what spurred the book.
Okay. Wow. So it was something that you kind of did maybe half-heartedly, but then you decided to make a proper effort and really try and see the gratitude in your everyday life.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So that half-hearted effort got me those mild results that were like, it was okay, but I felt like, if I didn't do this every single day, I'd still be fine.
Mm.
Um, and that attitude, kind of allowed me to kind of slip back into those bad habits that I really didn't want to continue, but
Yeah.
they're so ingrained, it's hard to change them.
Yeah. Okay. So how did it make a difference then, making the effort to keep up with your journal every day?
It made all the difference. It was so huge. It started the positive mild results started within the first couple days.
Oh, really?
And
That
then,
quick?
yeah, because I really needed it. I
Mm.
needed some place to put my focus besides the I'm losing my father and I don't know how to handle it. And like anything, you have a difficult boss at work. You can complain about it all you want, but the two best options are take action to change it. Talk to your boss, talk to maybe other people at work, talk to HR, find a new job, or accept it. So if you choose take action, great. Then you're putting your energy towards something that's going to help you change the situation. If you're willing to accept it, hopefully you don't accept bad situations, especially verbally abusive bosses or bosses that don't genuinely care about you. No boss is perfect, but in the end, they should at least be good enough where you can grow, you can tackle projects at work that will help you grow. And that to me is that fork in the road that we always have. And to me, that's what gratitude helps do. Gratitude helps you take action. There's a study that Edward Deci has done in his book. He writes about it, and you're 31% more productive when you have more positive inputs than negative inputs. So let's say, back to the boss scenario, if there's a 3-to-1 positive to negative interaction, so you have 3 positives conversations with your boss and then maybe 1 negative, and it might not necessarily be him yelling at you, but it could be like, hey, here's some feedback, you need to work on this. But it's just it's perceived by you as kind of a slight attack, right? So it's 3-to-1. So you stay level at that. It's when you have 6-to-1 that you get the 31% productivity. And that is huge, because it just showing you that positive interactions that you're having, you're more likely to take action. You're more likely to try things and fail at them than you are if you have that negative bias with people at work and with yourself. And this is where this study, I've kind of adjusted a little bit. So if you can have a positive self-talk in your head, like, okay, I'm going to find a new job, versus I have to find a new job, right? Like these little nuances that we have in our brain, the words that we choose, I don't know how many people that are going to be watching this that say, oh, that's so stupid, or, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. If they're anything like me, it's on a daily basis, and I'm working on limiting that, being aware of it and accepting it, not ignoring it, being really aware of it and watching it and not allowing it to dictate my actions. And that's where you really start to see yourself taking action on things that matter to you versus things that you just feel like you have to do.
Okay. So gratitude helps us kind of shift our focus away from the negative, would you say, and turn it into a positive?
Yes. So it's not necessarily turning it into a positive, it's just looking at all the different sides of the situation. So it's still, there's negative still there. Like, you could still have poop on a rock and you could flip it the other side and it could be a bunch of crystals. And you still have the poop on the other side, but you also realize it's a beautiful rock if you just are willing to look at all the sides of it.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's lovely.
My poop reference.
Yeah. Would you say then that this takes a lot of effort in the beginning? I mean, is it not just enough to think to yourself, I'm grateful for whatever? or say thank you to people whenever you get the opportunity? Do you have to make this a focused kind of practice for it to really have benefit?
Yes and no. It will have benefit if you I had benefits when I kept the first 2 gratitude journals. It definitely lifted me up. It definitely, created those endorphins and that running through my brain that, helped me feel more relaxed. But like anything, the deeper you go in anything, like you can dabble at playing the piano. You can dabble at playing the guitar. I see, was it didgeridoos behind you?
Yes.
You can dabble at that.
That's what I do.
Yeah. And, but if you truly want to get into it sounds silly, but I'm going to say it anyway. Be one with the instrument, right? And what I mean by that is you're not playing the instrument, you're playing music, and it allows you to get lost in it. You don't feel like you're anywhere else besides the present moment. And to me, that's when you go deep in the gratitude, that present moment comes alive. It stops being like, oh yeah, I got to think about gratitude. Yeah, I'm frustrated. It starts to become your default. I'm, like I said, I'm not perfect at it. I am no guru. I'm learning and going as I go. I still get mad at my dogs. I get mad at my kids. I get frustrated with my wife. But what ends up happening is gratitude comes much quicker than it used to. And it softens any feelings that occur and allows me to kind of take a pause and say, okay, is this situation that bad? And sometimes, if my mind will be like, yeah, it's that bad, buddy. Like you need to be running and attacking things right now. And then I'll ask it again and I'll be like, is it really that bad? And then my mind will be like, no, like, this part's kind of cool. Like, when your boss yelled at you and you went back to your desk and your coworker was like, is everything okay? Like, you realize like how much that empathy mattered to you and how good of a friend that you have. And that just opens up a whole different part of you and a side of this person that you never realized before. You never want to be yelled at, but then there's always something to learn from that situation. Should you have sat there and said, oh, I'm sorry? Or should you have said, Frank, the way you're talking right now is not a place where I'm willing to listen. When you calm down, then we can have a rational talk. Until then, I'm going to let you calm down. And when you're ready to talk in a regular tone and fashion, then we'll have a discussion. Because I don't mind admitting mistakes. I do make mistakes, but I don't want to be yelled at in this process. If you can do that, right, then you've set that tone of, no, I deserve respect versus, yeah, you can trample over me all you want. And so that it's those things that for me is noticing quicker. So what I found with gratitude helps me is understanding my emotions quickly and making sure that I take those pauses and say, okay, yeah, this moment's frustrating, but what am I learning from it? Yes, this moment's frustrating, but what is one small thing that's really interesting right now? And a lot of times it's internal. It's my reaction to the moment. The heat that rises up inside of you when you get frustrated in traffic. It's showing you like, hey, pay attention to this. Pay attention to me. And And if you don't pay attention to me, I'm going to keep occurring again and again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
Pay attention, appreciate me, give me the like any kid, like if he does something well, he gets praise. He's like, great, I'll do that again. If he does something bad, gets attention, great, I'll do that again. Because that's what we're feeding ourselves. We're feeding our emotions. Anger has a lot of positive uses. It gets you to take action. But if you don't notice it and appreciate it, you're going to allow it to dictate what it wants you to do versus what you consciously want to happen in that moment.
Okay. Could you just break it down a little bit more for us then? What is gratitude exactly, and how can we, if we've never done this before, we've never, taken a moment to stop and think, how can we start to bring gratitude into our lives to help us?
Okay, so you're right. So let me back up. So our brain works in the neuron level, right? So if you do something, it becomes a habit. It becomes something that you stop having to think about all the time. So the stronger those neurons are, the easier it gets. So think of something, driving to work or walking to work, however you get to work. You do it so often, you stop when you need to stop with red lights, but your brain can still think about things. How many times, people who are listening right now, think about how many times that you've gone to and from work, whether it is walk, bike, whatever, and you're thinking of other stuff, and maybe for the past minute or 2 minutes, you don't remember much of the drive. You don't remember the external billboards or stop signs or whatever it is. You're caught in your thoughts. And that's because your neurons are strong. They know this path, they take this path, and they're used to that. And so it's, think, to really kind of break it down, is if you walk on a dirt path, the first time you walk, if you create this path, as you're a kid, I don't know if you had neighbors or whatever, but you would, or even in your backyard, paths that you take a lot, they start to turn into dirt, right? Because you're trampling on top of it. If you stop walking that, then the weeds start growing over again. And then, it stops becoming smooth and it stops becoming easy. So then you end up having to start trample over top of it again and cutting away the branches that were there. And that's the same thing with your neurons. So if you are able to feel gratitude on a daily basis, you're strengthening those neurons versus strengthening, let's say you're complaining about something in your own head, right? Like, oh man, the waiter was really rude to me. And the guy next to me gave me a weird look, and when we were stopped at the stoplight, and you're focusing on these, that's the stuff that keeps these neurons these pathways strong. But if you think, oh, I think the waiter was having a bad day, let me check in with him. And then you say, hey, is everything okay? Are you feeling okay? And then he might answer, be like, I'm sorry. Right now I just got off the phone with my girlfriend, and she's, really, think about leaving me. And then you say, man, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. It's not your fault. And then usually what happens is they smile, you smile, and it becomes an interaction. I've done that, and I've gotten my drink for free. It's just this gift that other people really need, and it's a gift that you need. And this is where what people don't realize is these gratitude is a gift that not that you're just giving to yourself, but you're giving to others as well. It goes back and forth. So to answer your question in a slightly more long-winded way, it's just about building the habit. So what I usually suggest to people is at the end of each day, write 3 things that they're grateful for. They can do it at the beginning too. A lot of people in my group and people that I coach, they like to do it in the morning. It starts off their day on a positive note. And that's important. So what I suggest to them is say to do it in the morning and at night. And if maybe 3 is too much in the morning and night, so maybe you do 1 and 1 or 2 and 2. But the idea is, what I found is at night, your brain condenses the memories that it has while you're sleeping. So the most impactful things that happen to you usually are what becomes consolidated, and the things that happen at the end of the day. So, and this is why, like, I've stopped watching most kinds of shows at night, because I don't want that to feed into my brain as I go to bed. I notice, like, if I watch TED Talks, if I watch even comedians before bed, a lot of times my dreams are much more calm and I'm more relaxed, and I get a better night's sleep, versus if I watch an action movie right before bed and I turn it off and, hit my pillow. And because that condenses, if you keep a gratitude journal at night, if you're grateful for the cup of coffee you had that morning because it gave you a boost in energy, you're grateful for Gail, who interviewed me because she wanted to learn more about gratitude and help spread this message. I'm grateful for my dog, because when I came home, he always gets so excited, and it is one of the most beautiful greetings that any person could have. And those 3 things help you remember at the end of the day, like, you went through your day and you've probably had positive and negative interactions. Well, if you can remember the positive, it makes it easier then to build up your confidence and tackle those things, because now the next day happens and you start off what you just consolidated with. So all those neurons that strengthened over that while you slept are now there again, a little bit stronger, and more likely that you're able to lean on gratitude when you need it, versus go to the complaining habit when you feel like things aren't quite right for you.
Okay. So we can just kind of focus on the little things in our life, can't we? It doesn't have to be, we don't have to be grateful for huge, important things. Like you said before, we can be grateful for a cup of tea in the morning, or having our dog give us cuddles, which surely everybody will be able to find something every day that they can be grateful for.
Yes. In fact, I would say it's even more important than the big things. Because if you if you focus on the bigger things, like the promotion, the new car, the new suit, whatever it is, right? They only occur, maybe once or twice a month if you're lucky, and some maybe once or twice a year. You should, and this is the culture of celebration, is we celebrate those big moments. Man, we should be celebrating the little moments, because it's the little moments. If you look back on life, try to think back to some memories. You don't remember like the big promotion that you got, you remember a certain conversation you had with your wife, or a conversation you had with your husband, a hug that you got from your son after he told you about a difficult moment and he started crying. Little experiences that you have, that's the stuff that really adds up every single day. And to your point is like, a cup of tea, just taking a moment, as if you could drink a cup of coffee, and this would be a good challenge for everybody. One, whatever it is, tea or coffee, right? Usually most of us are caffeinated to some degree. And if you don't, that's fine. Then water, whatever it is. Pour just a half a cup of water. And every time you take a sip, be thankful for it.
Yeah.
Feel it. Be there 100%. Just a half, right? Like not even a whole, just a little bit, like 10 sips or whatever. And do that every single day for a week. Then watch what happens after that week is up. The coffee tastes better. Your tea tastes better. You'll notice you're fully present, because a lot of times we go into I'm drinking my coffee, but are you drinking your coffee? Are you really aware of it? Because most of the time we're busy working. We're not taking that pause, just really slowing down, taking the sip and feeling it, and because this isn't going to last forever. This will go. Everything will disappear at some point. We're going to die. The people in our life are going to die. We have to savor every single moment that we have with each other, with ourselves. And that's why we really need to tune into that stuff. And the more we can tune in, the more we're going to be compassionate for ourselves. And if I hope is people can keep a gratitude journal, but the real goal is compassion. It's compassion for who we are, compassion for the people around us, bringing empathy to every situation, kind of like I talked about with the waiter. If we just fight fire with fire, and if he, in America, we give tips. I know it's not a worldwide thing, but if a waiter is grumpy and acts upset and our reaction is just to tip bad, that's not being human. That's not really tuning in and finding out. And why it gets so difficult is we're social creatures. We don't want to ask somebody what's wrong and then them getting mad at us. So instead of reaching out, we kind of ignore it, and we never create the possible, most likely positive interaction that would occur, because of 1 out of 10, like that, maybe that grumpy waiter is like, none of your business, man, leave me alone. And then you get like, oh wow, that was really like what I did not expect to happen. But I want to say that would be like 1 out of 100. 99% of the time, it's like it makes that person pause and slow down and say, oh wow, I am acting this way. But we get so caught up in what's going on inside of our heads that we forget about other people. We forget, how good we have it. We forget just that cup of coffee, how lucky we are to sip that cup of coffee, because I think it is our chances of being born, like who we are as a person that we have, with all the cells that we have, is like 1 in 100 trillion. Don't quote me on that. I have no idea if those stats are correct, but it's you have a better chance of winning the lottery 10 times than you have of being born like you are currently. So you would have to win the lottery, that many times to equal what you have. So, I mean, and this is where it gets so tough is we do have so many different things going on in our lives, but even the difficult ones we can be grateful for. Even when my father was passing, I found like more love came out of me after he passed because I focused on everything I learned from him. I started jotting down all the different things, how he taught me dedication, how he taught me how to stay tuned in and focused when working, how to really pay attention to little details, how to ask myself questions that I normally wouldn't ask myself.
Yeah.
And I could focus on and I'm aware of this, but he had trouble thanking me. He was a tough German that grew up after World War II. They left Germany, moved to Australia for a better life, and then moved from Australia to America when he, from 12 to 17. He stopped going to school at 12. And his dad, he bought a car with his own money when he was 17. And then his dad was like, okay, that's the family car now. No discussion, no anything. His dad was tough. His dad was in the military. I don't know. I don't think he ever hugged his own son and my father. And so that brought empathy to his situation, and it allowed me to learn from it and not repeat those same mistakes that he did. So I try to apologize to my kids. I try to thank them. I try to be as honest as I can. If they're making mistakes, I don't ignore it and say, oh, you're great. We talk about it. But those are the things that, he had no trouble doing that, pointing out my mistakes and talking about them. It was the thanking and the hugging that he struggled with. But I would always say, I love you. And he would always say, me too, because he couldn't actually say, I love you. So, yeah, he really struggled with it. But that's the thing. And the more that I think about him and everything he taught me, the more grateful that I am, and lucky that he was a father, and I'm lucky that I had 40 years with him versus only 16. Or a lot of people have fathers for a lot longer, but maybe they weren't even nearly as loving and helpful as my father. So, everybody has their own difficult situations. But if we can find those little bits of gratitude, man, it just makes life so much more vibrant and enjoyable.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, it's kind of appreciating what you have and not taking it for granted, but, being grateful for it and taking, what you can and giving back as well what you can. And it's like we said before, it's the little things that we often take for granted, like the cup of tea or whatever, but they're often the things that, make us feel the warmest, make us feel, really good. I remember when I stopped drinking alcohol, my cup of tea, and it still is today, is it's the one thing that I'm really, really grateful for, whether it's first thing in the morning or whether it's 2:00 in the afternoon. Whereas before I would just say, yeah, I'm having a cup of tea or whatever. But it is important to become aware and to be grateful and to appreciate everything, because as you just said before, nothing lasts forever.
Yeah. And so that's right. Like if you have little forks in the road every single day.
Mm.
And you can choose gratitude. You can choose, and it doesn't have to be just two choices, right? Like we live in a multicolored world. But you can choose gratitude. You can choose complaining. You can choose ignoring. There's many different ways to look at a situation, and that's kind of like looking at a rock from all different angles. And so it's okay to be sad. And this is one thing I really want to make sure people understand. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel these feelings. These are good things. It is part of the amazing experience that it is to be human. It's not about ignoring this stuff. It's not about even replacing it. It's just about watching it and being grateful for that it's there. The only way to kind of work through your anger is to own it, to really say, I'm angry right now, and understand why that you're angry. Understand where it's coming from. This, to your point, is it does take work. It does get uncomfortable at times. A gratitude journal can get uncomfortable because you might run out of things that you feel grateful for. You might start repeating things, and you're like, oh, I don't need this anymore. But the reality is that's when you need it the most. That's when you need, and this is where I made the mistake with my two previous gratitude journals, is I made the mistake of like, oh yeah, like I feel better, like I'm good. And I don't know if you're going through the 12-step process.
No.
Okay. So everybody's different, but a lot of times you can't stop the process, because once you stop the process and you feel like, oh, I'm all better, you can easily go back to drinking again. And it's one thing what people say is, okay, like you did the 12 steps, now do them again. Like start from scratch. And what that does is it just focuses your energy on learning about yourself, learning from others, being able to admit mistakes. Most people, I think, end up having struggle with alcohol because of all the emotional stuff going on inside of them. And it just masks it. So there's nothing wrong with drinking. It's just, you have to choose if drinking is the right way to handle your emotions and the situations. I quit drinking 3 years ago. I don't know if you know that about me.
No, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. So I quit drinking because I had an ulcer, and every time I drank, I got very dizzy. And so, and part of that ulcer was because I would drink, and then I would take Advil at night to reduce the amount of the hangover that I would have. And cocktail inside my stomach created those rips in my lining. And then that was my realization, like, why am I drinking and then taking a pain reducing chemical to allow myself to be able to function the next day? And that was eye-opening to me when I was like, whoa, like I'm doing damage to my body so I can keep drinking. And then I stopped. I quit. My dad quit 10 years earlier, and there was always that feeling inside of me, like, I'm going to do that someday. I'm going to quit alcohol. I don't need this. But I kept falling back into old habits. I would not drink. I'd be like, I'm not drinking during the week. And I'd be like, just drink it on the weekend. And then Friday, Saturday. And then I would add Sunday, because I was like, oh, I'll have a couple beers on a Sunday. Then I would add a Thursday. And then I would add a Wednesday, and then I would go through the cycle and be like, no, I'm only drink on the weekends. And then the cycle would start all over again. And I realized I was just masking my emotions. And to me, that's where a gratitude journal helped, because it exposed things that I didn't expect would be issues with me. It exposed a lot of when I had to just be with myself, and not with just myself. I have a family, 2 sons and a wife, but without alcohol, it was different. It took a while to make that adjustment.
Yeah.
But once I did, and now will be 3 years this October.
Oh, well done. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. But I sleep better. I feel like I have more things to be grateful for, because it's hard to be grateful when you have a hangover the next day.
That's true.
It's hard. You still can, but I would advise against trying to be grateful first thing in the morning after drinking too much.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about this a bit more inside the program. But just before we go now, you run a workshop. You've also got your book, which talks about how to bring gratitude, but you run a special workshop as well, don't you, for people who are maybe struggling with this, or they want to learn more about how to do it. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I coach people one-on-one, but what I realized was it's harder to help more people. And so I decided to create the Gratitude Journal Masterclass. And because I want to do more classes and more group type stuff, because I found other people can learn from each other as well. And so August 31st, I'll do my first Gratitude Journal Masterclass in the morning. And I believe you're in England, right?
I'm actually in Spain. I am in Spain.
That's it.
I'm in Spain, yeah.
Spain. So yeah, that would be the afternoon your time. But people can come to the website, and if they sign up, they'll get an email. And if they do join from this course, right now as of last night, the price went from $29 to $39. But I'll still honor the $29 price point for your audience if they want to take the class on August 31st.
Okay, so will you give us a special link that we can use?
Yes. Yep.
Oh,
I'll give you a coupon. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
I'll put everything obviously in the video, and this will be a blog as well. So all the information will be in the blog post. So thank you so much, Karl, for taking the time to talk to us today. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me.